So here are my colors. This one's a new color I'm using. It's called Blue Ochre. It's quite nice. It's very grayish. This is ultramarine blue, and right next to it is phthalo blue. This is cobalt blue, and it makes a nice color when you mix it with this purple right here. The next color is Alizarin Crimson. These are two cadmium reds, a cadmium red medium, a cadmium red light. And the colors right next to it are raw sienna and cad yellow light. Now, below are my knives, and I have a nice selection. Some diamond-shaped ones, lozenge-shaped ones, blend-edged. This one has kind of a serrated edge to it on the top. There's some diamond-shaped ones. This is a workhorse. It has a nice rounded tip. I didn't think I was going to use this one much, but it turned out that round one's really, really pretty nice. So we'll see how it performs here in a little bit. Now I start with this kind of pie-shaped knife, just because I'm very used to it. It's what I usually mix my colors with. It has a rounded edge, a rounded tip. And I've mixed up some colors, a variety of blues, warm blues and cooler blues and lighter blues, and I'm adding some yellow there. And I'm just kind of blending them in. I'm going to have to speed this up because basically what you're going to see here is you're going to see every stroke I put on the canvas. And it gets a little boring, so I had to speed it up. Now that line around the top of the tree was a little bit of cloisonnism that I was going to try, but it just didn't work, so I eventually obliterated it. Now there's that round palette knife, and it's really good for in the sky when you want to smooth things down a little bit. So I'm just picking up paint on there on the edge and applying it, flattening a little bit. Now I'm trying to create some cloud shapes. There's some modulation in the sky, and sometimes you just have to switch up your tools a little bit. I'm using that really thin lozenge shape knife here, and it's pretty nice. I wish there were more sizes of that shape, and using the flat serrated knife, and I'm adding a little bit of warm into the clouds there. You can see there's a little bit of a reddish. Now I decided I would just throw in some really quick darks here. I'm using a small little pie shape knife here, and I'm trying to mix it up a little bit with some dark ultramarine greens and some purples, as well as some ultramarine blues, and I added some of the really dark red into that. Actually, it might be purple, but I was using a kind of a flatter palette knife there. I pulled this one off. This is new, and it's more like a butter knife. It just has a real round tip and flat sides, parallel sides, and it's really nice for putting a lot of paint on. Now some of these strokes I really think are nice and fresh, and I wished I would have left them a little bit, so it's kind of interesting to see this recording. So I'm just putting paint over the top of paint, and it's really easy to do with a palette knife, so that's one of the reasons I really like it. And sometimes you can dig down in and bring up some of that darker color that I've covered over. I picked up some blues and just putting some sky holes in, and plopping my mountains in just really quick there. You can get a lot of broken color with the palette knife, and that's another reason I really like it. I'm switching up my knives quite a bit here. I'm using that little long lozenge shaped one now. And sometimes you can, you're just so focused on what you're doing, you forget what knife you're using. And you have to kind of train yourself to use the best one for the job. You can drop color in really quick, as you can see in that road. It gives really hard edges, which is good for me because I tend to put really soft edges in, and that gets pretty monotonous after a while. So I use the knife to kind of compensate for one of my weaknesses, and that is to get too many soft edges. Now I do want to come in and start moving the paint around, you might say, with a round. And I'm cleaning my brush off when it goes off camera, and I'm just picking up little bits of paint and moving them from here to there. You can see the brush is very, very clean. There's hardly any paint in it. So I'm just, picking up little specks of paint. And sometimes with a knife you'll get like ridges, and they can sometimes look very mechanical. So that's another thing I'm doing, is kind of going in and getting rid of some of those ridges. So now I'm using a different kind of knife, palette or brush. I'm using a filbert, and this is kind of a new brush for me, but they're great. This long filbert, it's got a very long bristle on it. It's great for just softening edges and picking up small bits of paint. You can kind of push the brush into the canvas, and it'll kind of splay out, and you can get more of a bristle effect. I've actually used flats and brights a lot, and I want to add filberts and rounds to my repertoire of brushes. I just feel like it gives you more variety, it gives you more possibility. So I'm kind of scrubbing a little bit there, and I probably shouldn't have done that. I had some green on my bristle, so I wanted to clean that off. I'm wiping it off camera, and it still wasn't enough, so I wiped it again, and then just pull that paint up and get a really soft edge. When my brush is really clean, you can just pull it up and blend it right into that blue. Sometimes I'll use kind of a negative effect and kind of shape a form by pushing paint around it, like I did on that trunk. And I'm really using this filbert quite a bit, really pushing it hard. Adding some highlights into the trunks. If they're just all the same value, the trunks look like they're not moving back and forth in space, so that helps push that back in places. Throwing in some really quick fence posts along the right side there, and adding some little detail behind it. Some distant trees, throw in there really quick, darken them up a little bit so they pop out. Put in some more sky holes there with the filbert, and just sort of softening areas, softening edges, reducing ridges. There's usually some variation in the distant fields, and so I just added some yellow into there, dropping in some really light tree trunks and branches into the trees, and then also on the fence post there. So just making very small changes, breaking up some edges by just making them more bumpy or jagged, making some more sky holes, softening edges on the road and the grass. Now here I'm coming in, and this is the final touches. I'm just going to smooth out some of my roughness with that rounded palette knife.